Hi everyone. First I'd just like to thank BASEM for inviting me to speak this evening, especially Linda who offered the invitation out. It's great to be able to hear everything that's been going on in BASEM in the last year, and also I've frantically been making notes as to how we can work together in different areas as well. Just going to talk briefly about what I'm going to cover in this short 20 minutes. And the fact that we've done research with what we term ASP, so our athlete support personnel, which is essentially the network of people that support athletes on the ground. Sport and exercise medicine practitioners are a key part of that, obviously. Once we'd kind of conducted that research as an organisation, we recognised that BASEM were going to be a key partner, and we had to look at how we were going to build that relationship, how we could collaborate on projects together, and I'm also going to talk about the ambitions that UCAD have for the future, and also how we'd like to work with BASEM, and the Memorandum of Understanding, or that partnership agreement, is part of that. First, just to cover off who UCAD are and what we do. For anyone that isn't aware, hopefully you are, but if you're not, WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, are the global regulatory body, and UCAD sit within the UK as the regulatory body for this nation. WADA have a set of rules known as the WADA Code, and they're the rules that all national anti-doping organisations, such as UCAD, have to ensure that our national governing bodies of sport and everybody that takes part and are members of those adhere to. They also have international standards that cover things like education and testing and results management, etc. And again, they all have to be upheld. So part of UCAD's vision and mission is to make sure that sport is clean, and to make sure that we protect sport from doping cheats. But it actually spans much wider than that. And we're not just about tackling the cheats, we're about making sure that athletes are out there with the right values and want to compete clean to start with. Those values that we have as an organisation cover things like integrity, doing what is right for the sport, collaborating, so working together with all interested parties, sharing knowledge and building relationships to make sure we can tackle doping. We strive for excellence simply because we're passionate about what we do. We want to make sure that everyone is on the same page, evolving with the times, and that we're all dedicated to making sure that sport is clean. UCAD have, with those values in mind, we have an education first principle. So we want to make sure that all athletes and athlete support personnel and anyone else engaged in sport have the educational knowledge ahead of making any decisions, so they make some informed decision making. Our education, we want to make sure, is innovative and tailored to the audience, hence why we conducted research, not just with people like sports medicine practitioners, but we've also looked at coaches, and it also extends to parents. I won't obviously go into the parents and coach research here this evening. But in terms of the voice of the athlete support personnel, you can see from the little speech bubble on the left-hand side, that represents all those contributions to a survey that was conducted in 2019 into 2020. Obviously, the doctor is in there, the physiotherapist, nutritionist. So we have a lot of sport and exercise medicine focused practitioners in there, as well as the others that you would fully expect to be sat around that athlete. As I said, the research started with a survey, trying to gather information, gather thoughts from those practitioners in terms of where they felt their motivations were, if you like, for actually helping athletes, or their motivations for keeping sport clean. And the chart, hopefully you can read it even if you're online. Some of it is a little bit small, so I do apologise. But in terms of the motivation to undertake those anti-doping actions, the key one on the left-hand side with the most strongly agreed rating was that element of protecting athletes' health and well-being. So that brings in that duty of care, okay? But also preventing unintentional doping and protecting the integrity of sport. Interestingly, on the far right-hand side, only slightly agree are the practitioners' opinions of protecting their own reputation, okay? There's some chuckling going on. Obviously, sport and exercise medicine, or just medicine in general, is far wider than just anti-doping. And there is some element of protecting their own reputation, whether people don't want to admit they want to protect their own reputation amongst everything, and whether that is a clear, a true representation. But from our perspective, athlete support personnel have to uphold the rules for themselves, because 7 of the 11 anti-doping rules actually apply to athlete support personnel. So it's not all about protecting their own reputation from oh, I did everything all right. Actually, if they are found to be guilty of committing some kind or violating one of the rules, it's a lot more than just their reputation that's at stake. Okay, they will be removed from having access to athletes. So that was quite an interesting finding from that, and maybe that's an education piece for us to make sure that SEM practitioners are aware of their full role. We also looked at their behaviours and how they feel their behaviours influence the athletes that they work with. And again, very much a duty of care for the athletes came up. That care for athletes is the highest rating that they see the more often. As well as minimising the risk of inadvertent doping and setting up and holding, or set and uphold the values and standards. Again, far right, very interesting. Most would say they rarely perform actual anti-doping tasks or duties. Okay, and to be fair, depending on the cross-section of the respondents, it could be that a lot of those don't find themselves in that situation where they are being an athlete representative in a testing situation, etc. However, quite a few may well be involved in recommending a supplement if you're a nutritionist, or if they're a physio, using a particular massage oil, for example. So they may actually be involved in performing practical anti-doping duties, but they don't recognise it in themselves. So again, it could be an educational perspective. There are such things as therapeutic use exemptions, which some of you may well be aware of, if not all of you, where an athlete will be allowed to take a substance which is on the prohibited list as long as they have a valid reason, and they can have a therapeutic use exemption either in advance or retroactive, depending on the level that they are competing at. So that may be the obvious perform practical anti-doping tasks, but actually, anti-doping? That sounds very wrong. Anti-doping. Don't want to dupe anybody. However, it may be that there are other tasks they just don't recognise as being a practical task. But certainly, overwhelming, they wanted to create a positive environment and raise the confidence to signpost correctly as well. So we moved on from that survey and wanted to delve into some of the themes that came through by gathering some focus groups. And I led the focus groups myself, and just to try and, like I say, delve into those thoughts that came through the survey. What were the, what can we pick at the detail, find out exactly what they mean by some of the things that were coming through, some of the themes. And if anybody is interested, by the way, that QR code will take you to the full research report for the survey and the focus groups, if you're interested. But it does make entertaining evening reading. There were some clear messages for UCAD, though. They want us to be experts in the field. They recognise that we are the leaders in anti-doping in the UK, and they want us to lead them as a profession. That's across all of the practitioners, of course, not just SEM, but across all the practitioners that make up that support team around the athletes. They wanted UCAD to demonstrate a commitment to them as practitioners, so making sure that we're keeping clean sport on their radar, not just on the radar of athletes and not just working with your BOA and your BPA. They want UCAD to work directly with them as practitioners to keep it on their radar. And they recognised and recommended to us that we should liaise with professional bodies in order to do that. Okay, so the best way to get to the vast number of SEM practitioners, for example, in this country, would be to go through the professional bodies that they affiliate to. And to provide direct support through resources, provided directly or again via various means, opportunities to discuss and share best practice, again within their own profession, but also across professions. So, for example, nutritionists sometimes feel a little bit out on the side when a sport and exercise, a strength and conditioning coach may well be the one that sees athletes on a daily basis. Okay, so a nutritionist may see them a lot less frequently. Who's going to be most likely to recommend a supplement to the athletes? probably the strength and conditioning coach. Will they wait till they're next in line to see the nutritionist or not? That's up for discussion. Okay, so that's some of the problems that are happening across the sports landscape in terms of that support personnel. And so there's some of the things that we're coming through is like, can UCAD help facilitate this so we can see it from each other's perspective, and we can try and break down some of these barriers, if you like. What I'm trying to demonstrate with the diagram here is that with all three of those elements in place, the leadership, the commitment, and providing that resource and support, if we pull them all together into one jigsaw, we unlock the behaviour that we want to see in the support personnel. Okay? If any aspect of that is missing, so if support personnel don't feel reassured, don't feel like there's a commitment, don't feel like it really matters to them because they haven't got that leadership and it's not on their radar, then we won't, UCAD, and the athletes, more importantly, won't see that recognition and influence of their behaviour or impact of their behaviour on the athletes. So what we need to do is unlock that behaviour by having all of that in place. So obviously we recognised that professional bodies were going to be key, and not surprisingly, that's where BASEM came in. Very unique situation that for the things that we're trying to do across all the bodies, in relation to all practitioner areas, sport and exercise medicine obviously has BASEM and also has what I'm now going to call the faculty. It was always a bit of a mouthful saying the Faculty of Sport and Exercise Medicine, but now being in the room tonight, it's just the faculty. So that's what I'm going to call it from now on. So, but because there is that split, and so if you were to combine, that would make my job so much easier. But in terms of being able to get messages to members, but also work on the CPD aspect, obviously, at the moment, it's two very different conversations with two different organisations that are trying to work together in various ways. So, obviously, I'll be keen to see what happens over the next year with that. We're also looking at the other bodies. So we've got strength and conditioning, sport and exercise sciences, and sports nutrition. So they're the key ones. I'm also going to add USEMs to that list after tonight, because we are also looking at those ASP of the future, as we call them. So those support practitioners that are in training, how can we embed the values and embed the education at a very early start, so it's not something new that appears. They recognise why it's important at a very early stage. In terms of what that initial engagement has looked like so far, we've been updating information, providing updated information through things like, and hopefully some of you will have seen this through the membership emails that Gemma has been sending out, and sounds like she's revamped in the last year, so I'm pleased that you kind of been part of that revamp process. But it really has helped to expand our reach to members of the sport and exercise medicine community. We've had, obviously they're coming through on a regular basis, we've had recent discussions in terms of how we can work together more collaboratively, for mutual benefits. So it benefits UCAD because we know that the support personnel that are working with our athletes out in the field have more knowledge, but it also benefits BASEM because they recognise that their members are more likely to go on and be valued members of the SEM community working in performance sport, for example, if they have the relevant anti-doping knowledge to start with. Many do actually automatically think that we are purely talking about performance sport, and I mentioned it just then about working in performance sport and the kudos that comes with that, and BASEM knowing that they're supporting practitioners that are working at that level of the field. But actually it's just as important for those that are coming in at the entry level, again, looking at George, the entry level of practitioners, but also those that decide that they are a GP, but they are going to volunteer as a pitchside doctor at their local rugby club, okay? The rules still apply. Okay, so you can't get away with something just because you're at your local club. You go, oh, well, I know the elite can't have this, but you can. It doesn't work like that. So it's just as important that we cover the whole pathway. And again, that's where the professional body really do, and I've seen it tonight, we are looking across the whole breadth. And even listening to Dr. Nikki Kay, those masters athletes, they are elite in their own landscape. And so the different type of medical decisions that are made at that level really are, key to our, we need to be not involved, but we need to make sure the right messages are getting to the right people. So those decisions, again, are well informed. Obviously, I was very much offering to support, and we started small with the conference. And I must thank Dora, because it was through a mutual contact that we got involved with the conference. So, yeah, that was a very, very successful from our perspective. Obviously, we had a network of SEN practitioners from across the globe, so it was useful for our staff to be able to liaise with practitioners from elsewhere, other countries, and find out how things were different in other countries in terms of how much education they receive, etc. So that's been a real good starting point. And we were able to signpost to information that was on our website and all that kind of thing. In terms of how that has looked continuously, and I've already mentioned the monthly newsletter updates, and these are just some examples. So, you know, raising awareness and information has really been the focus of those. And the first one on the left-hand side, just checking checking your medications when the start of the cold and flu season comes along. Or how our values, what UCAD values are in terms of our athlete population, and making sure that practitioners that work around those athletes, uphold the same values for that reason. Or even just introducing our new CEO that started almost a year ago now, I think. So just, getting that perspective. So very much not just information giving, but let's find out a bit more, find out why it's important to you, why is it important to your athletes. And very much practical based. So, what can you take into your daily practice to make sure that you're doing the best for clean sport. Hopefully, you'll have all received one of the quarterly publications. I did bring a few extras tonight with me for anyone that hasn't had one. But also, obviously, it's available online as well. So we were absolutely thrilled to be offered this opportunity. I didn't even have to ask for it. This was something that came onto my lap, and I went to Tony and said, we have to do this because we have to get the message out. And so we felt very privileged to have 6 articles across this issue, the latest issue, for a special Clean Sport edition. And we also had the seasonal chat with the pharmacist, which, although strictly not sport and exercise medicine, I know they're very keen to be part of that arena. So we were keen to involve pharmacy, particularly because they don't have their own overarching body from a sport pharmacy perspective. So we included that. And yeah, it's gone down very well from our side because we collaborated across the globe, in fact. We had a contributor from WADA. So hopefully it's been well received by the membership. And we look forward to collaborating on similar projects, maybe not a full issue. Now we realise what goes into it, but we're perfectly happy to provide regular, the articles on an annual basis or whatever. And all of these things are being discussed, kind of behind the scenes, if you like, as far as how important it is to make sure that kind of thing is out there, because then, as the research showed, the practitioners want to see that UCAD are leading the way with that. Other ambitions, I've been discussing with the faculty about how to get maybe our online e-learning recognised by them. It's a very unique situation for us because we're not led by medicine as such. So it's proving a little bit of a block at the moment with our online offer, but I'm hoping to kind of not necessarily come away from that. I'll keep tackling that, but otherwise want to provide opportunities for to facilitate group discussions and sharing of best practice around clean sport topics. So hopefully that will be recognised as something that is valued as CPD across the sector. And we're also looking to try and embed clean sport education content into practitioner training. And the research that we're doing at the moment in conjunction with Loughborough University is calling out to undergrads, postgraduates, both students and lecturers that still work, as well as young practitioners through to your most experienced practitioners, if anybody can remember what they had, basically, within those courses, what content was delivered, and anything that we can gather and find out where those pockets of knowledge are. And as we know, if expertise move, or if a professor moves to a different research group, their expertise goes with them. So we know there are going to be pockets of clean sport or anti-doping research going on within universities, and that will probably impact upon the type of content that is delivered through their undergrad and postgrad courses. However, until we have the actual data, we don't know where to start. So again, quick plug, just like Nikki did with her book, this is a QR code that will take you through to the survey. So I'd love it if as many BASEM members as possible could fill in the survey. It'll take about 20 minutes, so I apologise if it's slightly lengthy, but you can imagine the type of detail we've had to go into to get the accurate information. But yeah, the ambition is that we can try and give some standardised anti-doping content across universities. It's not a year plan, it's not even a 2-year plan. It's probably going to be a 10-year plan, all right, because we know how curricula are developed so far in advance. But that's the ambition, to try and get some of that out there. In terms of other next steps, I'm in the process of finalising what's called an ASP curriculum. So the athlete support personnel, what education needs to be delivered to that audience specifically. At the moment, there may be people in this room, there may be people online that have joined in anti-doping education sessions because they're being delivered to their athletes. Okay, it's their squad session, so they'll just join in. And you kind of pick up on bits of information. You think, oh, that's important for me, that's relevant for me. We're actually now going to have learning outcomes specifically for those practitioners, for all of those support personnel that are involved in working with the athletes, so that you recognise what it is actually expected of you. So I'm putting that document together. You guys won't actually see it, you'll just be the beneficiaries of it. So there'll be educators that are based in universities, and they're based in performance teams. It may even be delivered by our own national trainers if you're heading to a major games, for example. But the curriculum will sit behind any education that you receive, so that you know that it is specific for you. We have our Clean Sport Week coming up. You may or may not have heard of it in the past. It is a week-long campaign, or a 5-day campaign. It's 22nd to the 26th of May this year. And this year, the theme is It Takes a Team. So it really is looking at the whole aspect, not just team sports, but I've really had a good involvement in terms of it takes a team. It's the team behind the team. So yeah, look out for those opportunities. We are hosting a panel session in Loughborough. Very much obviously open to anybody to attend. We're hoping that as many from Loughborough campus, hope to see you there, Patrick, will attend. We will have a performance director from a sport there, a couple of athletes, an AthCon member, and we're trying to get someone from Loughborough Sport involved as well. Just in terms of opening that discussion around clean sport, why it's important for the team to be behind the team, and how it is a team effort. There's also a coach day that week, an ASP day, so that's support practitioners. That's the day when you guys may be more involved or want to engage more with what goes on online. There'll be videos, there'll be interviews, there'll be athlete perspectives throughout the week. So it's just a real good way of sharing that information. We will be tweeting and everything else that goes on. So if you guys could get involved, that would be great as well. And then in terms of the best practice, I mentioned this a little bit in terms of what we'd like to do from a CPD perspective for BASEM members. Obviously, I'm here, so I'm at the AGM. We've been at the conference before, and we'd like to be able to deliver a little bit more in future conferences, probably not this year, because we're probably a little bit behind the curve on that. But lightning talks, a series of 5-10 minute video talks that can be uploaded onto the BASEM website, or however we decide we can use it. But all these things, like I say, are in discussion. So any ideas that the BASEM membership have in terms of what they would like, please do bring it to BASEM and or myself, and we can look at what we can, how we can facilitate that. So that's pretty much all I want to say. The Memorandum of Understanding will be signed very imminently, but essentially it's a commitment from both organisations to work together. Okay, for the mutual benefit of all the BASEM membership, and essentially to make sure we're influencing that behaviour that we want to see in and around athletes. If you want more information specifically on why anti-doping is important for you as athlete support personnel, again, third QR code of the evening is over on the right-hand side. That will take you to our website and directly to athlete support personnel. Our website just homepage. If you want to contact me, you can either do it directly with my email or the education inbox. But hopefully you've found that interesting. Hopefully you can see where the benefits are going to be. And if you've got any questions, please do ask.
Thank you, Claire. Any questions for Claire? Chair.
Hi, Claire. Thank you very much. That was really interesting. I was really interested in what you're talking about, the sort of the different practitioner types that athletes come in contact with, and how the frequency may not necessarily match the insight and the expertise, and who they might go to for advice. And I was just wondering if that's something you could explore a little bit further in terms of how you're overcoming, and also sort of from our perspective as a multi-professional organisation, whether that's something we can help you with.
Yeah. Come back here. Yeah, so that is something that we are looking to work out across all disciplines, and something that was being asked for was, as I said, not just the within discipline discussions, but actually having an open forum across, and whether that's by us facilitating groups that work around sports specifically, or we attend sporting conferences where we're expecting all the practitioners to be in a multidisciplinary group. So yeah, we're trying to investigate all options, and yeah, obviously the world's our oyster, but we have to be clever with how we tackle that. But yeah, I think opening up that discussion, and yeah, being in the right place at the right time to have that. Yeah, any ideas would be greatly received as well.